Cash Out had a few hits that really popped off, but then he completely disappeared from the spotlight and nobody knew why. That is, until shocking news surfaced that he was allegedly pimping out his own mother. Yeah, it sounds unreal, but this is the wild story of how Cash Out ended up serving a life sentence on a trafficking RICO case. Back in the early 2000s, Cash Out said he was done with the streets after blowing up in the rap game. But his fame faded faster than it came, and when the money stopped flowing, he went looking for another hustle. Unfortunately, instead of staying legit, Cash Out built a full-blown trafficking ring, with help from his cousin and even his mom. After his 2012 hit single, he was already back in the streets by the next year, which is when investigators say the RICO case began. He launched his own label, Pyrex Music Group, or PMG, but instead of signing artists, police say he used it as a front to kidnap women and force them into sex work. Cash Out also made money off OnlyFans with a woman named Boots, where they posted explicit videos. But Boots wasn't the only woman in his circle. Cash Out was allegedly profiting from several women, some of whom were kidnapped and held against their will. Reports say he even got violent with them. Cash Out, his mother Linda Smith, also known as Mama Cash, and his cousin Tyrone Taylor were all listed in the RICO indictment. Authorities claim PMG was used to lure women into believing they were being offered music opportunities, only to end up trapped and exploited. Even worse, Cash Out's mom was allegedly both a victim and an accomplice, helping to recruit other women. Normally, pimping alone doesn't come with a huge sentence, but the RICO charges made things way worse. Because he ran it as a family operation through a record label, prosecutors went hard. He was charged with trafficking and several other felonies. The pimping charge carried just a year, but trafficking alone came with 20 to 30 years. Before trial, Cash Out was offered a plea deal, 64 years plus 150 years of probation, which he rejected. Later, prosecutors offered 25 years, but he turned that down too, gambling on beating the case. Huge mistake. Once the witnesses testified, it was over for him. A lot of blogs tried to make it seem like he got life just for pimping, but the truth is way darker. Cash Out wasn't just running women. He was kidnapping vulnerable, homeless women and forcing them into prostitution just to survive. One victim said she met him outside a gas station where he offered to help her make money. She got in his car, not knowing what was coming next. Cash Out drove her to a house, locked her inside, and forced her to work for him. She couldn't leave, and the only time she got food was when she earned money for him. Another witness came forward and testified that Cash Out had trafficked her cousin, forcing her into sex work. The cousin told the court that Cash Out was taking every dollar she made from clients, leaving her with nothing. Another victim shared that Cash Out had first pretended to be interested in dating her, only to later start pimping her out once she trusted him. Even Cash Out's ex-girlfriend took the stand, admitting she helped him collect the money from the women he was exploiting. But the most shocking part of the entire case was that Cash Out's own mother was deeply involved. Known as Mama Cash, she wasn't just aware of the crimes, she was helping run the whole operation. Mama Cash was reportedly recruiting women, managing payments, and even selling her own body despite being in her 50s. She would reach out to women on Instagram, luring them with promises of modeling or entertainment jobs. One victim said she thought Mama Cash was going to help her become a model, but that's when things took a disturbing turn. Instead of offering her a real opportunity, Mama Cash revealed that the job was actually sex work. The victim and her friend reluctantly agreed to work with her, but soon after, they were set up. Mama Cash allegedly arranged for them to be robbed and assaulted by 3 men at a motel. By the end of the trial, Cash Out, his cousin Tyrone Taylor, and his mother were all found guilty. Before sentencing, Cash Out stood before the judge, insisting he hadn't done anything wrong, and even went as far as comparing himself to Jesus. Cash Out claimed that every woman involved with him had agreed to it, that he never forced or assaulted anyone, but the judge didn't buy a word of it. In the end, Cash Out was sentenced to life in prison plus 70 years on the trafficking and RICO charges. His cousin, Tyrone Taylor, got life plus 60 years, while his mother, Mama Cash, received a lighter 20-year sentence for her role in the RICO and trafficking crimes. Rumor has it, Mama Cash was actually the one who pulled Cash into the pimping and trafficking game. He grew up in the streets, and after beating a gun charge back in 2009, he promised to move differently. That's when he turned to music. He jumped in the booth, started recording, and soon landed a deal with a small indie label called Bases Loaded. His debut single, Cashing Out, caught fire. When L.A. Reid heard the record, he immediately set up a meeting and signed Cash Out to Epic Records. After re-releasing the song through Epic, it exploded. The track dominated the charts, and big names like Chief Keef, Yo Gotti, and Young Jeezy dropped remixes. Cash Out was even label mates with Future, and in 2013 they collaborated on a track called Another Country. But by 2014, Cash Out's momentum started fading. He had a minor hit with She Twerkin' and dropped an album that year, but after that, things went quiet. The mixtapes he released in 2015 and 2017 barely made any noise, and behind the scenes, he was already knee-deep in trafficking and kidnapping. One of the victims said she first met Cash Out's cousin, Tyrone Taylor, while asking for bus money. She was homeless, and Tyrone told her he could help her get a place to stay. Instead, he took her to a motel, where he assaulted her and began pimping her out. After the trial wrapped up and Cash Out was hit with a life sentence, people online started linking his case to Young Thug's RICO situation. When the YSL case against Thug collapsed and he walked free, Atlanta's district attorney, Fani Willis, faced major backlash. Some people believe the judge threw the book at Cash Out to make an example out of him after that embarrassment. But the truth is, Cash Out's case was nothing like Thug's. Prosecutors struggled to prove Thug's direct involvement in any violent crimes, but in Cash Out's case, the evidence was undeniable. He was accused of beating women, starving them, and holding them hostage when they didn't make enough money. In the end, Cash Out, his cousin Tyrone, and Mama Cash were all found guilty and sentenced. 2 more people connected to the operation. Cash Out's manager, Demetrius Drama Edwards, and Kiara Danielle Adams, known as Boots, were also charged. Their fates haven't been confirmed yet, but odds are they'll be facing decades behind bars.